Have I bit off more than I can chew with this very cheap Jaguar XE? I hope not. My worst nightmares just come true. So we got the thing in, we had to tow it in, put it on skates because we couldn't get out of park. I've ordered a cable for the gearbox that's coming from Jaguar. So we're going to crack on and see if we can find out why this thing doesn't start. Let's not waste any time and get on with it. So let's see if we can diagnose why this thing won't start. I'm using the ThinkCar 399 today, available from ThinkCar UK if you're interested. Engine mount control circuit low, fan 1 control circuit low, water and fuel, mass or volume airflow circuit range, piston coolant, oil jet solenoid control. These faults were had in the car park, didn't we? The airflow meter was disconnected. So what I'm looking for is, have I got an engine speed signal? Have I got fuel pressure? And now the injector's been switched on. So we'll give this a crank. So I'm looking for an engine speed signal, I'm looking for fuel pressure. It's giving us in voltage, bloody hell. I'm looking for over 1 volt on fuel pressure. And we're looking for an injection time and degree. What I'll tell us is, it's seeing engine turning. If I'm seeing sufficient fuel pressure, it should be switching these injectors on, so we should be getting an injection timing. So as you can see there, I've got 250 RPM, which is what I'm looking for, or more. I've got fuel pressure sensor is over 1 volt, so that's going to be sort of like 300 to 400 bar. And I've got an injection timing degree. So to me, it looks like it's trying to start this engine. We'll do some checks under the bonnet just to verify this, because at the end of the day, scan tool data is process data, it is not actual data. So we will get under the bonnet and we'll take some readings under there and see what the hell is going on. So for those of you who watch my technical videos, you'll know my tool of choice for testing anything is a picoscope, oscilloscope. So let's get this hooked up to measure the fuel pressure and to see if these injectors are switching on. So I'll leave yous watching that. The green line is the fuel pressure, the blue line is the injector. We should be seeing the green line go up as the fuel pressure rises, and the blue line we should start seeing horizontal lines, which is the injector switching on. Let's see what we got. And as you can see, the fuel pressure rose, the undulating signal from this fuel pressure is because the fuel pump on this engine is a single piston fuel pump, so you get these sort of phases in the fuel pressure, and the blue lines going upwards is the injector being switched on. And what we'll do is we'll just zoom in on a couple of events there. So we can see the fuel pump pumping. The voltage it achieves is an average of 1.3 volt, 1.2 volts, which is good. Anything above a volt's good as far as I'm concerned. And we can see the injector switching on. So what that means is that the engine ECU is trying to start this engine. So based on that, I think we've either got a problem with the fuel injectors themselves, where they're not delivering fuel into the cylinder, so they could be blocked or seized, or we have a mechanical issue with the engine, which is physically not allowing the engine to start. So next, what we'll do is I'm going to take the injectors out the engine, and I'm going to connect them to the fuel pipes, connect the wiring back onto at least one injector, and then see if there's any fuel coming out of the nozzles of the injector. So as you saw there, the injectors are actually injecting, so it's not blocked injectors. So next thing we need to do is we need to check the actual mechanical condition of this engine. So I'm thinking that potentially we have an issue. I don't know what it's going to be yet. The fact that I've got the injector switching on, this is a Bosch system. Normally on a Bosch system, it needs to see engine speed, it needs to see the camshaft and crankshaft position sensors, and it also normally needs to see synchronization. If it sees those and then sees a sufficient fuel pressure, it will switch the injectors on. But I can't actually think that I've ever seen a data PID on a Jaguar Land Rover with synchronization. So maybe it doesn't need to see synchronization, I don't know. So what we're going to do is we're going to hook the oscilloscope back up again, and we're going to do something rather sexy, if you like diag. We're going to put a pressure transducer into one of the cylinders so we can see what's going on in the cylinder. But we're also going to hook up the oscilloscope to the camshaft position sensor, the crankshaft position sensor, and an injector. What that's going to give us is it's going to tell us if the cam and crank sensors are both working. We can also look at the synchronization of those sensors. We will be able to see what's going on in the cylinder, so we'll be able to check compressions, etc. But also we should be able to see valve opening events. And lastly, we should be able to see when the injector is actually injecting, so we can actually look at the actual fuel timing of this engine. So to do all that, we've still got the amps clamp on the injector on number 2, and what I've done is I've removed number 2 glow plug, and I've hooked up, in place of the glow plug, I've got this pipe with an adapter on the end, which is screwed in the glow plug hole. That's hooked up to this thing called a pressure transducer, and all of this, and I've also got a wire coming from the crank sensor, which is down on the bell housing down there. I've got a wire, I'm going to hook this wire here up to the cam sensor. So we're on the cam sensor, the crank sensor. We've got a current reading from injector 2, and we've got the pressure transducer tapped into cylinder 2. So on the oscilloscope screen, we should then start to see a bigger picture of what's going on. So once again, I've got you on the screen of the oscilloscope. I'm going to give this a quick crank and see what information we can capture. That should be long enough. What have we got? Yeah, we've got a good a good bit of information there. Right, next thing, we need to dissect this information. So the green channel is the cam sensor, the gold sort of beigey channel is the crank sensor, the red is the pressure sensor inside the cylinder, and the blue is the injector. So the eagle-eyed amongst you would have seen something quite obvious there, but I'll come to that. I'm going to zoom in on basically 720 degrees of crank rotation. Right, so the red one, if you look at this, you can see the rise, the peaks and falls. Basically that's compression. So that's the engine coming up to peak compression. Where it falls is the piston going down again. There's an exhaust stroke in there, there's an intake stroke in there, and then there's another compression stroke in there. I'm not going to go into detail quite yet. This is the issue. The injector on cylinder 2 is injecting at the end of an exhaust stroke instead of at the end of a compression stroke. That injector should be injecting here. So our injection timing is 180 degrees out. So what I'm going to do there is that it leads us on to the cam crank correlation. So the relationship between the cam sensor and the crank sensor. And I think what we're going to find is, I'm just going to swap these round because I have got a known good to compare it with. I'm going to zoom in again here. Digest that. I'm going to show you the known good now. I use this all the time, so I keep it stuck on the wall here. So this is the known good, and as you can see, it's from Jaguar Land Rover. It's straight out of their technical site. Now, this is the cam sensor here. This is the crank sensor. You can see the crank sensor, basically it's small. It's teeth on the crank sensor it's looking at, and we'll have two missing teeth, which makes the gap. That gap lines up with the rising edge of that long rising edge on the cam sensor. Now if we look at ours, that gap there is right along the other end of that long rising edge on the cam sensor. So basically that should be there. So proof my worst nightmare with this engine is come true. We're going to have to put chains on it. The timing's jumped, definitely, that's conclusive, which is causing this, the injection timing to be so far out that the car won't start. So the engine's wanting to try and start it, but because it can't determine the timing of the engine, it's injecting on an exhaust stroke instead of on a compression stroke. So unfortunately, it's going to need chains. I hear you saying, dead easy, just rip the timing cover off, change the chains. Not that simple on this engine. The timing chain is not at the front of the engine, where you'd expect it to be. It's at the back of the engine. It's between the engine and the gearbox. So to do the timing chain, we have to actually remove the transmission. So to get at this timing chain, this transmission has to come out. To get the transmission out, we're going to need to remove the exhaust system so that we can get off the heat shield, so we can then get access to the prop shaft. So we can remove that. Then we remove the cross member, disconnect all the linkages to the gearbox, take all the bell housing bolts out, and take this transmission off the back of this engine. Then once the transmission's off, there's a big plate on the back of the engine which needs to be removed, so to expose the timing chains. There's also a cover on the back of the cylinder head which we need to remove, which that's done by removing the wipers in the wiper panel. So it's not a 5-minute job to do chains on this car, hence why it's my worst nightmare. But there's a bonus. Because we're taking this transmission out and the service history of this car is sketchy to say the least, you saw the last video, we're going to take this opportunity to replace the oil in the transmission. Now this transmission is a ZF8 speed. It should be serviced every 100,000 kilometers, which is 60,000 miles or thereabouts. The car's now done 82. We have no history of a transmission service. So before we take the transmission out, we're going to take off this plastic sump, which houses the filter. We'll drain the transmission of oil. We'll remove the transmission. Now in a normal transmission service, we can't get the oil out of the torque converter. But because we take the transmission out, we can then remove the torque converter, empty that torque converter while it's off the vehicle, put it back onto the transmission. When we put the transmission back in, we'll give it a complete oil change instead of a service fill oil change. A complete oil change on one of these, I think, is about 9 litres. A service fill is something like about 6.5 to 7 litres. So we're going to get an extra 2 litres of oil out of this gearbox. So this gearbox is going to be like factory fresh when we're finished, with a new filter on it as well. So the new owner of this vehicle, rest assured, can be confident that this transmission should serve them well. Another service item on Jaguar Land Rover vehicles is brake flexi pipes. Now you might think, brake flexis, why are they a service item? They recommend to change them every 72 months, which is every 6 years. Now this car is 10 years old. And I can tell you, they've never been changed. And this is the reason why they recommend to change them. Have you seen the corrosion on the ferrules? They're pretty bad. So what we'll be doing is we'll be ordering a set of flexis for the car. So we'll have 4 brand new flexi hoses. We'll be doing a brake fluid change as well. So again, this new owner can rest assured that this is probably going to be the best fettled XE on the market when we're finished with it. I think the rear ones will be just as bad. Yeah, they're pretty corroded as well. So 4 new flexi hoses will be ordered for this vehicle, and a full brake fluid change. We might as well change the differential oil while we're on. I think these diffs only hold about a litre of oil anyway, so we'll change that. We'll put fresh oil in the diff as well. The rear tyres are down to about 3 mil. I think we're going to be putting new tyres on the rear as well. We're going to be refurbishing the alloy wheels because they're a bit scabby. And we're also going to be doing brake pads and discs all around because the brake discs look a bit scruffy. The pads, there's a bit left on them, but like I said, we want to make this the best one on the market. So these front tyres, they're okay. There's probably about 6 mil left on them. So we'll be leaving them on. We'll put some good quality tyres on the back. While we're under here, we might as well have a look to see if there's anything else which potentially could need attention. What's that there? I'm just looking, that could be transmission oil there, which could be coming from that behind that clip there, because the pipes are dry that side but they're wet this side. So this is the gearbox oil cooler. You can see the pipes go back to the transmission. So I think what we'll do is we'll pull them pipes off and have a better look at them, and if that pipe is rotten behind that clip, which I suspect it is going to be, we'll replace them pipes as well. So there's going to be no expense spared on this car, I guarantee you. The car will be right. It's going to come with 12 months MOT with a guarantee. There'll be no advisories on that. And it will have had the biggest service it's ever had. If the diagnostic process interests you, what I'm going to do is, alongside this series of videos of the journey from me buying, repairing, preparing and selling this car, I'm also going to be doing some more in-depth diag videos. So this video is going out on Sunday. Next Wednesday, next Wednesday, I'm going to put a more comprehensive diag video out on how I diagnosed the non-start issue with this vehicle. So that'll be just about the non-start. So if that interests you, keep an eye out for that video coming out on Wednesday. In the meantime, I would like to thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, press the bell for notifications, then you'll be notified of any new videos. We've got more project cars coming as well, so you'll be notified of those. I can't stress enough, I need this channel to grow so we can start improving the content for you, the viewers. So subscribe, share it with your friends, talk about it, get on social media with it, share it on your Facebook page, get over to our Facebook page, get over to our Instagram page, give us a like there, follow us there. The quicker the channel grows, the bigger the projects will become, the more entertaining the videos become. In the meantime, see you same time, same place, same channel, where hopefully next week we'll be removing the gearbox from this and getting these timing chains replaced. So tune in and thanks for watching.